It was a quiet Saturday morning when everything changed in the most unexpected way. The sunlight streamed gently through my living room curtains, spilling gold onto the wooden floor. I was in the middle of making myself a second cup of coffee when I heard a knock at the door. At first, I didn't think much of it, probably the mail carrier, or maybe a neighbor asking to borrow something. But when I opened the door, I saw someone I hadn't expected at all. Standing there was Ethan, the teenage son of my longtime friend, Melissa. He was holding a neatly wrapped gift, a box tied with a navy blue ribbon. His cheeks were a little red, his hair tousled in that effortlessly messy way teenage boys seem to manage, and his eyes were wide with a nervous sort of determination. "Hi, Ms. Parker," he said, his voice carrying the awkward mix of confidence and hesitation that only comes with being 16. "Ethan," I said, blinking in surprise. "What are you doing here? Is your mom with you?" He shook his head. "No, it's just me. I brought you something." I glanced at the box in his hands, then back at him. 100 thoughts raced through my mind. Was it my birthday? Had I forgotten something? Melissa and I had been friends for over 20 years, since college, and I'd practically watched Ethan grow up from the time he was in diapers. For him to show up alone, gift in hand, felt both sweet and strange. "Well, come in," I said, stepping aside. He walked into the house, his sneakers squeaking softly against the hardwood floor. I closed the door behind us. We sat down in the living room, and he set the gift box on the coffee table. I poured him a glass of orange juice, since I doubted coffee was something Melissa let him drink. He sipped it quietly, his hands fidgeting against the glass, before pushing the box toward me. "This is for you," he said simply. I smiled, though confusion still lingered. "That's very kind of you, Ethan. But what's the occasion?" He scratched the back of his neck, clearly struggling to find the words. It's kind of a thank you. And also something else." Now my curiosity was piqued. I carefully untied the ribbon and opened the lid of the box. Inside was a delicate glass figurine of a bird, specifically a blue jay perched mid-flight, its wings spread wide. The detail was incredible, down to the tiny etchings on the feathers. It shimmered in the morning light, almost glowing. "Ethan," I whispered, genuinely touched. "This is beautiful. Where did you even get this?" He grinned faintly. "I saved up. I know you always liked birds. You told me once when we were out in the yard that blue jays remind you of your dad." I remembered. My chest tightened. It was true. Years ago, on a warm summer evening, Ethan had been chasing fireflies in the yard while Melissa and I sat on the porch. A blue jay had landed on the fence, and I'd told Ethan how my father used to say they were messengers of strength. I hadn't thought he'd remember, but clearly he had. "This means a lot to me," I said softly. "But you didn't have to do this." "I wanted to," he replied quickly. Then he paused, staring down at his glass before blurting out something I never expected. "Ms. Parker, I need to tell you something, and it's kind of wild." The room went still. His tone was serious, his eyes searching mine for some kind of reassurance. I set the figurine carefully back in the box, folded my hands in my lap, and gave him my full attention. "All right," I said gently. "What is it?" He took a deep breath. "I know this is going to sound crazy, but I had this dream about you. And in the dream, you were the one helping me with something really important in the future. Like guiding me, protecting me. Almost like family, but in a different way. It felt so real that when I woke up, I couldn't shake it. That's why I wanted to give you the bird. It's like a sign. I think you're supposed to be part of something big in my life." I stared at him, caught between bewilderment and concern. It wasn't the kind of thing a 16-year-old usually came out with. "Ethan," I said slowly, "dreams can feel powerful, but they don't always mean something literal." "I know," he admitted, his voice firm but earnest. "But this one did. It wasn't just a dream. It was like a warning, or maybe a promise. And I needed you to know, because I think it's connected to what's happening with my mom." That caught my attention. Melissa and I talked often, but lately she had seemed distant, distracted. I knew she'd been stressed at work, but Ethan's words made me sit up straighter. "What do you mean?" I asked carefully. He leaned forward, his voice lowering. "She doesn't tell you everything. She doesn't tell me everything either. But I hear things. I know she's in trouble at work, and I think it's worse than she lets on. She's been getting phone calls late at night, and yesterday she cried in her room when she thought I couldn't hear. I don't know what to do. That's why I came here. Because in my dream, you were the one helping us." The weight of his words settled between us like a stone. Suddenly, the gift, the dream, everything, it all felt heavier, as if this boy had come to me not just out of kindness, but out of desperation. I reached across the table and touched his hand. "Ethan, thank you for trusting me. I'll talk to your mom. You don't have to carry this alone." He nodded, relief flickering across his face. That was the beginning of something I could never have predicted. From that moment on, I found myself drawn deeper into Melissa's struggles, into Ethan's need for reassurance, and into the strange sense of destiny that seemed to hover around us. The days that followed were filled with discoveries. Melissa eventually admitted that her job at the marketing firm had gone sour. Her boss had been taking credit for her work, and when she tried to speak up, she was threatened with losing her position. She hadn't wanted to worry Ethan or burden me, but the stress had been eating her alive. When I confronted her gently about it, she broke down in tears over my kitchen table, the same place where Ethan had given me the blue jay figurine. I realized then that maybe Ethan's dream wasn't just a teenager's imagination. It was his way of sensing the unspoken weight his mother carried. Together, the three of us navigated those challenges. I helped Melissa gather evidence of her work contributions, encouraged her to speak with HR, and when that failed, I connected her with an attorney friend who specialized in workplace disputes. Slowly, Melissa began to fight back, finding her voice again. And through it all, Ethan remained by her side, his youthful belief that I was meant to guide them becoming a quiet source of strength for all of us. The wild thing wasn't just Ethan's dream, or the way he showed up at my door with a gift. It was how that one small moment set off a chain of events that bound us closer together. I wasn't just Melissa's friend anymore. I became something like an aunt, a mentor, maybe even a second parent figure to Ethan. Years later, when Ethan stood tall in his graduation gown, he handed me his cap to hold while Melissa cried happy tears. He whispered to me, "I told you. You were meant to be here." And in that moment, I believed him.